Hi, my name's Phil. I like to talk about politics. So everything's looking rosy for Nigel Farage, right? The Conservatives are finished, yeah? Out of the picture, nobody paying any attention to them. Kemi Badenoch is getting her strategy badly wrong, and it's hard for wavering voters to identify anything about the Conservatives right now that makes them stand out from their way more popular rivals, Reform UK. So if that's the case, why have the Conservatives been posting the highest donations of any political party? But also, why are Reform raising so little in donations? The latest figures do not seem to tally with the media-driven narrative about Reform UK being on the path to power. Wealthy political donors, they don't think they are. But first, for daily news and politics, please hit the subscribe button to stay notified. So if you want a good illustration of just how mad British politics continues to be, and there are many, try this one for size. Everyone thinks the Tories are dead and buried. The public think they're irrelevant. Nobody's really listening to them. Nigel Farage definitely thinks they're finished, at least for the immediate future. He has made a substantial tilt towards left-wing voters recently with talks of nationalisation, boosting welfare spending, even nature conservation. Whatever would Thatcher think of her biggest fan? But the reason why Farage feels so comfortable doing this is because he thinks he has the right-wing vote sewn up. He already won a lot of their former votes in the last general election. Polling shows he's harvested way more Conservative votes since. It's very likely that now Reform UK is well ahead of anyone else. They're able to attract the pragmatic votes who will just back whichever right-wing party stands to do best. Because I can't imagine many right-wing voters believe that Farage, the ultra-capitalist, has any intention on delivering on some of these left-wing policies he's been promoting lately. But this is clearly not the way donors are thinking. In fact, although I say that the Conservatives have been receiving more donations than anyone else, it's by some margin, especially when compared to Reform UK. They've been getting twice as much as them. Now, I'm not sure Elon Musk is all that keen to donate to Nigel Farage right now, if he ever was. In fact, Musk might be having second thoughts about donating to anyone, given how much damage he's caused himself with recent escapades. And despite Farage bringing on billionaire Nick Candy to take on the role of treasurer and attract the big bucks, they're currently only managing, in theory, the same level of financial support as the Lib Dems. Given that Farage is clearly continuing to have a massive influential impact on British politics, and people increasingly believe his party can win an election in the future, some even think in 2029, why aren't those Tory donors switching and getting into Farage's inner circle early before the competition? And more to the point, why are wealthy donors throwing money at the Conservatives despite the fact that right now it looks like a complete waste? This actually seems to be one area where the Tories are not being cowed by Reform. They even seem to be taunting Farage over it. They're pointing out that he claimed he'd brought in £1 million over one swanky dinner in Mayfair earlier this year. Oh yes, said the Tories, where's the money on the register then? Basically, either Farage trousered it all or Farage was telling a few fibs. According to a report in The Independent, they've also pointed out that actually 42% of their donations are still coming from Richard Tice's company. For all the talk about the biggest individual donor to Reform UK being the mother of one of Farage's aides, that's just in terms of individually named people. But Richard Tice's company, they're not counting that. That's actually the biggest donor. That's 42% of it. He's been bankrolling them for years. It's a bit like when you go collecting for charity, you throw a few coins into the bucket to get the ball rolling, I guess. But take away the donations from their own deputy leader, and Reform UK are in a distant fourth place on donations taken right now. Could it be that politically aware, wealthy donors who are willing to throw out a few quid to political parties do not believe that Farage intends to be a serious operator at the next general election? Farage himself claims the reason they're doing badly for donations is because they don't have peerages to hand out. Oh, the others, they just bankroll themselves by giving out peerages. And, you know, sure enough, it was exposed a few years ago that the Conservatives were indeed handing out seats in the House of Lords for £3 million in cash at a time. However, Farage is wrong to say this is the basis on which the donations are being elicited right now. See, you might get the odd one on a secret understanding of favours later on, but the Tories have no power to award peerages in opposition. And given that the only single large donation to Labour came from someone who had died, I don't think that donation is going to unlock the House of Lords either. Also, that doesn't explain why Reform UK, if you take Tice's money out of the equation, are raising way less than the Lib Dems from what you might call external donors. And there's another thing to consider. Given that Farage is talking about corruptly attracting donations, let me tell you the standard way of corruptly getting donations. It's not by peerages, it's by having access to policymakers. There are two reasons why someone mostly corruptly donates to a political party. The first is in return for public contracts, if they own a company that is able to compete for them. The second is just in return for privileged access to ministers, where they can present their case about regulations and legislation and get their way. Needn't even be an obvious and grubby quid pro quo. The donors don't need to be making it clear that you're only going to get this donation if you do what I want. Many of them just want that access. The chance to discuss policy with ministers on a regular basis because they're confident they will be able to persuade them. Now, the Conservatives, you would think, have lost all of these advantages. They can't appoint members to the House of Lords anymore. Badenoch can ask Starmer, can you stick this person in, please? They've been really good and everything. And he will doubtless do so in some cases. But Badenoch can't appoint whomever she likes now. She can't give out public contracts. She can't change legislation or regulations. However, donors can take a long-term approach. At some point, the Conservatives will win power again. And those donors want to be the ones who stood by them through good times and bad. That will give them the access they want and maybe contracts if they want those as well. But in Farage's world, the Tories are finished, yeah? It's Reform UK who are going to win the election. It'll be Nigel Farage who's going to be Prime Minister in 2029. He will then be able to give out peerages, public contracts and ministerial access. And donors who want any of those things will be more than happy to donate to him now in order to be first in the queue in just 4 short years. So why aren't they? Farage might be right to suggest that a lot of donations can indeed be corrupt, but he's missing the fact if he really is on the road to power, he should be a major donation magnet right now. But he's not. The bottom line is that Reform UK are like a manufactured boy band. The media gave them this massive amount of promotion, actively suppressed discussion about their other rivals outside the big two. Both the Conservatives and Labour are, to an extent, also helping them out with their misfiring strategies in some areas as well. It's helped propel them to number 1 in the charts. But Nigel Farage and his wider party have no offer to the public. To the left, they're promising massive spending on welfare and nationalisation, would you believe it? To the right, they're promising cuts. Has to be one or the other. Can't be both unless you want to melt the economy. Maybe we'll see what happens in another year's time. Maybe Reform will still be riding high, the Conservatives still flailing, and maybe those donors will change their mind. But right now, these results suggest wealthy donors on the right don't think Reform UK is a serious operation. I mean, it comes to something when they're donating twice as much to the Tories and actually take Tice's donation out 4 times as much to the Tories, who don't look at all serious right now. Farage is still enjoying the mostly uncritical media coverage and filling that gap between a failed government and one that hasn't yet made things better. But without donations, all he'll have is the free media publicity. No wonder he wants to start taking donations in cryptocurrencies. He needs those rubles a bit urgently. But let me know what you think in the comments below, and for more content you could subscribe to the channel or even become a member for access to streams and behind the scenes updates. Thanks for watching, and until next time, I'll see you later.